Zolly Effect here, back at it again with another 4K review. And for today's video, we got a 4K review of The Panic Room by David Fincher. Now, before we get into the review though, I want to go over the Steelbook and kind of showcase what they got going on here. So on the front, you have Jodie Foster and Kristen Stewart. Behind the font of Panic Room, and you can see their names and stuff right there. Now, I do think they could have probably went a little crazier, maybe did the original artwork that's on the DVD cover. I thought that would have looked really, really nice. That would have been a pretty cool Steelbook, maybe if they did something with that. But they went with this, and I think it's pretty nice and simple, and it's not the worst one, actually. It has a very nice matte finish, kind of like a steel door or something like that. When you flip it over to the spine, you just get like the stainless steel look. It says Panic Room, and it says a film by David Fincher. Not much going on the spine, but you know, I don't know what you expect on the spine. When you flip it to the back, you're gonna get the same thing you get with all the David Fincher Steelbooks, where you're just gonna get screenshots from the movie. And I don't really think that they're super like iconic scenes or anything. They're just some really, really nice, well shot scenes with a lot of contrast and shadow work. And I think it's a nice addition. I kind of didn't like it that much when it was on 7, but now that I have the 3 Steelbooks so far, I feel like it kind of just all works together. Maybe if I display them, I won't even display the front, I'll display like the backs, and you can see all the different screenshots from the movies. I wouldn't say it's the best Steelbook out there, but it's pretty nice, and it falls in line with the other Steelbooks that they have made with David Fincher. Okay, so now that we went into detail with the 4K Steelbook, let's go ahead and talk about the actual 4K of this movie. Now, which is a bit of a downside, because when I popped this bad boy in, you can definitely tell that it's a 2K intermediate that's upscaled to a 4K, and I can notice it immediately when it comes to the sharpness. Now, when movies are 2K, I feel sometimes the sharpness is turned up a little bit or something like that. I know this was shot in film, but I feel like some of the sharpness in this movie looks a little bit too contrasty around the edges, a little bit too much crush, and just looks a little over sharpened. That when there's like a 4K transfer, I like when the transfer looks super smooth, and basically the sharpness just has like a really nice fall off, and there's not a lot of crunch around it. Kind of like with the Social Network. I think Social Network looks like much better, and this movie is definitely leans on the softer sides. Some scenes actually look softer than others. Specifically, one of the final shots when you have Forrest Whitaker. I remember seeing this scene and like they shine the lights on him like the SWAT team. I remember seeing that like when I first saw this movie on Blu-ray, and I remember thinking when I got this movie, I was like, oh, that scene's gonna look awesome. It's like one of my favorite shots from the movie, and actually it was kind of soft. There's a lot of water droplets on his face, or like sweat, and it just didn't look that sharp. You wanna, when you see water droplets on someone's face, you wanna be able to see the individual little droplets. You wanna see the clarity and the detail of those, and I feel like it just kind of smushed in. His face wasn't sharp, the raindrops weren't sharp, and overall this movie is just not the sharpest that you can get when it comes to 4K transfers. I would say that this movie doesn't really have a lot of HDR pop besides like a few scenes. When you're in the safe room, everything looks kind of like silvery, and it just has like this bluish look. Doesn't have that much pop. And then when you're outside of the safe room and you see like all the bright oranges and stuff, that pops a little bit more. But again, it's very just, I would say, on the desaturated side. Nothing truly pops, except for one moment when they put the gas into the panic room and they set the fire to kind of go out from the panic room into the actual house itself. That scene blew up when it came to HDR, like figuratively and literally. When that blue flame comes on, I was like, boom, it felt like the fire was in my room. I was like, oh my God, there's the HDR. That part looked really cool. And it was actually one of the few standout scenes in the movie when it comes to color pop. The 4K quality on this is good enough, but there's just a difference between like a 4K transfer that looks super sharp, but it looks like realistically sharp. This one kind of looks like they sharpened it like in-house thing in their editing software, where they're actually able to like up the sharpness. That's what it kind of looked like. And I was kind of saddened by this. It definitely wasn't what I was expecting, especially after seeing The Social Network. I thought I was just gonna get like The Social Network, but basically into this. Another thing is some of the CGI stands out a little bit, and it's pretty noticeable because again, they can't really upscale the CGI in the 4K. So yeah, that kind of looks a little dated, honestly. But where you do get a lot of bang for your buck is not on the 4K transfer, which does look good, but it's not my favorite part of the movie. Now, my favorite part of this movie is the new Dolby Atmos mix. It sounds awesome. There's just so many things. You wouldn't think, since it's kind of just like a, you know, very controlled movie, you're not going to like new spaces and having all different kinds of sound effects from different environments. But what you are getting is a lot of cool sound design that David Fincher does in his movies, from like when, you know, someone's like walking towards someone and you're getting like this bass kind of effect, muffled kind of sounding. That part sounds really, really cool. Or when she's going back to like grab her phone. They just have all these different sound effect designs that they're doing that really kind of bring you into it. They're not really natural sounds, but they're just like these cinematic hits of like impacts and things, or like muffled sound, but they're just different sound effects that they're using that aren't like natural sound effects that really, really pop and just add to the tension and overall hype of like the different moments. Now, the realistic sounds from like the house creaking, or echoes when people are talking in the house, or banging on the walls, or when they're like drilling the hole, just all the different little sound effects that they're able to like emphasize in this movie sound really, really good. From the rain pouring into the background, you can hear the rain falling, you can hear the puddles that the rain's dropping into. At the same time, you get like nice echoes in the room, you get heavy footsteps. You really hear the sound of the house, and it's super, super immersive mix. And I would say almost reference quality when it comes to the Dolby Atmos mix. It is something that I would definitely put on if I just wanted to show like a cool sound system off. And yeah, I would pick it up just for the sound mix alone. It is really that good. This movie does have a load of special features, like hours and hours, but I don't think it has anything new. Actually, all the special features could be found on the 3-disc Blu-ray set that they released a while back. It's all the same special features, but again, it is loaded with special features, from like hours of commentary, one from Jodie Foster, David Fincher, I think Forrest Whitaker has one. They have different breakdowns of the cinematography and the lighting and how they created some of these scenes. And overall, if you're like a filmmaker, or you're someone who's interested in filmmaking, you want to learn up, just getting this for the special features is something that I would recommend, because actually a lot of these movies, when they pack the movie with like really good special features, I think it's almost like a little bit of a class on learning how to make some of these movies. And I think it's really, really awesome from a learning standpoint to be able to pop these movies in, and the special features are just full of education. So yeah, guys, that's my 4K review of The Panic Room. Again, the movie doesn't really pop like it should. Some of the outside stuff looks really, really good, but most of this is in the house, and the colors just aren't really there when it comes to the overall HDR-ness of it. But you do have a few standout moments, especially with the blue flame, and the audio mix on this movie is just reference quality. There's so many cool things they do with sound effects, to how the sound sounds in the house, with different impacts of like boots walking or echoes and stuff. It's just overall super, super immersive mix, and I would recommend picking it up. Are you guys gonna pick it up? Let me know down in the comments if you've seen it already, what you thought of the transfer overall. I would love to read about that. And yeah, that's my 4K review of The Panic Room. I hope you guys get it. So until the next video, doses.